Welcome to this masterclass on AI for strategy. I think Mike, so I'm being joined by Mike Schwarz from EO Vancouver. I think it's the third time that we're doing these masterclasses, and today we're talking about AI and strategy. Dear onderwerp to me, because it really says something how to use AI in your strategy making in your company. So we're moving away from creating content and writing better emails. We're now going to the more advanced topics by using AI and leverage AI in strategy. Mike, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Good to see so many familiar faces. I am very excited on this topic today. I do consider it, you said it's exciting. I kind of feel like it's the boring part of AI that leaders don't lean into. They're busy doing like the lower level operational stuff, but I think it's important. I know I learned a lot preparing for this workshop, and I actually had a couple business breakthroughs as a result of preparing for this. But let's not forget the importance of staying strategic. Almost everyone here, we're entrepreneurs, we're CEOs, we're leaders. And when AI gets exciting, what do? We get sucked into the weeds of operations. Ooh, we can automate this report. We can automate that. Don't forget about your strategic responsibilities at the top, and understand today we'll go through how you can use AI to automate your CEO type role. So that's what the topic for today.
So we're moving away from content creation, from writing better emails to alls and the ahs, but the really deep thing, how to use AI in your strategy decision making and in your analysis and reporting and all the things that we basically are dealing with as an entrepreneur, as running our companies. Mike, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about layers and strategy and AI readiness.
Well, let's first talk about why this is so important right now. The same reason that Tomas and me probably have had an equivalent amount of sleep the last week, AI is changing faster and faster. And when things move past a certain speed, humans, we just can't keep up anymore. So we just start to narrow our vision. We narrow our focus, or we'll stick our heads in the sand. If you're relating to that and feeling a bit overwhelmed with AI, that is continuing to happen. So as the world changes faster and faster, we become more and more dependent on our AI friends to keep us updated, to give us those executive summaries, those debriefs. Did our competitors change their pricing? How is the industry doing right now? What are the macroeconomic influences on my business? What should I change with my business model today to help me prepare for what's happening in the news yesterday? That can all happen with AI. So that's why it's so important. This topic is very important. I personally had a couple of business breakthroughs using AI for strategic decision making because I forgot to do it. I was so busy doing the low level stuff. So I think this is more important than ever because you'll feel the rate at which everything is changing just continues to accelerate.
So let's start. Let's start with the layers of strategy.
All right. So how many of you here are already using a system like Rockefeller Habits, Scaling Up, or EOS? Raise your hands, put them up high. Critical stuff. And so all of those systems will teach us the importance of strategic layers. There's so many different systems out there. If you're part of EO or YPO, we're very familiar with these core ones, EOS and Scaling Up, but there's a lot of others. And the one thing they'll all have in common is strategy is it's not about one specific vantage point. You can be strategic at 500 feet. You can be strategic at 10,000 feet. You can be strategic at 100,000 feet looking down at your business. So understanding those layers of strategy is important because dissecting those layers into data layers to give to your AI is how it's critical for AI to be able to do its job. So you should all have a clear set of values and visions. Like, what are your core values? What were you planning on doing in the future? Now, one thing to note about vision and values is that 25-year-old BHAG, 25-year-out BHAG from Vern Harnish and the Rockefeller Habits, that was brought back to a 10-year BHAG about 3 years ago. Then we brought it back to a 5-year BHAG. Now we talk about 3 and 2 year BHAGs. We don't look past 2 or 3 years, but we still have that plan and we do collect that data. And it goes all the way down from 3 year, 1 year, quarterly. And then you should be reviewing strategy in your weekly L10 or your weekly strategy meetings department by department. And all of that data needs to be saved, organized, and centralized. Well, whoever is moderating, you can probably click mute all, and then I will unmute myself. It'll hit everyone, including me. Um, then we have the lowest level. We might have program strategies like, is my Google Ads strategy good or not? And random ad hoc strategies that come up. So it's important. Sometimes people think of strategy as like, oh, that one page strategic plan thing we do quarterly in our retreats, and then we put it in a drawer and we forget about it. Remember, there's layers here, and each of these layers have very specific data that is associated with them. For example, a 1 year strategy, there might be 8 hours of solid content in an off-site strategic planning session with your team. Have you recorded that? Do you have the full transcription? Is that accessible to AI? Because through that strategic layering process, you set the goalpost, you set the vision. And when you can compare the data that you collect today, what's going on in my industry, with my competitors, with my revenues, with my profitability, and you compare that with the goalposts, that's when the magic of AI can really kick in.
But Vern Harsh talks about 3 year plans, and we're now talking about very small cycles in like a year. Does it still apply?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking out. The longest range that I look out is pretty much 1 to 2 years. I was joking a year ago that the 10-year BHAG was 3 years. For me, it really is now 1 or 2 years. Because if you're in professional services, I think you need to have a 1 year is as far out as you go, maybe two. Everything is condensing for sure.
So I did the 1 year, the plan, the Rockefeller habits, or the EOS. I created the plan, the vision, the rocks. What are the next steps in terms of using AI? Where can I use AI in this whole process?
Well, first, I'd say for those of you that didn't raise your hands, I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, and most of you are from EO or YPO, but there's, I think, about 100 of you that are just random entrepreneurs that showed up I haven't met before. You may not have EOS or scaling up, but if you want to start to automate your strategy with AI, you need a system like this in place. You need to have your scorecards, you need your KPIs, you need your people tracker, you need your competitive industry analysis, all of that. So you've got to get on a program like either scaling up or traction, and you can self-implement, or you can go with an EOS coach. Like this is one that we use out here in Vancouver a lot. Jay, he's in Victoria, but there's a ton of these coaches, and I highly recommend it. The next topic I wanted to talk about here, Robert, and you guys have heard me mention this before, so I'll go through this one pretty briefly, but there's the highest level of readiness or a strategy as it pertains to AI is making sure that you're thinking 1, 2, 3 years down the road. Am I prepared for what comes next? And we call this the AI readiness. So strategic preparedness for what comes next is very important. I'm going to quickly skim through that. But if you guys want, there's a free AI readiness survey that we created. You can scan that.
Can you share your screen for a sec?
I've been sharing this whole time.
Okay. Okay.
You guys can't see.
I see your thumbs up.
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah. So what the readiness survey does is, I'll switch screens here in 3 seconds. Well, if you didn't get the QR code fast enough, Jeanette will be sending out the homework and slides shortly. But the readiness assessment will look at things like, there's 8 different pillars of strategic readiness for AI. Strategy, skills, technology, people. And here's some examples of questions that you need to think about strategically for your business. Our vision, our 3-year picture or 1-year plan, that's the BHAG, which is condensing, it explicitly considers an AGI future. If you haven't done that, you're not prepared for what comes next. Or our company sets at least one corporate AI rock each quarter with measurable outcome. If you don't have that, you're not ready for what comes next. Every team member sets one personal AI rock each quarter tailored to their role and technical proficiency. Our ideal customer profile.
So it's for an AI rock for your business, but also an AI rock for your staff, correct?
Yep. So we have corporate rocks or company-wide rocks that set the theme, and that for us it translates down to individual AI rocks. So actually, if Jeanette, you can raise your hand and say hello. Jeanette She meets monthly with everybody in our company, and she makes sure that they have their AI rocks set, and she holds them accountable with detailed work back schedules. They have two sets of rocks. There's one has a professional development rock, a learning rock, and one has an automation rock. And we hold them accountable because this is a massive transition. You need to take it seriously and you have to hold them accountable. So we found that the rock system from EOS works really well for accountability with this AI transition.
I see, Jenna.
For another one, so we know the importance of scorecards. Here's an AI-related sort of like key customer and operational data live in one centralized place. So you can have AI analyze that, compare that, and tell you if you're on pace for your goals.
So here, the Rockefeller Habits or EOS generates the scorecards, and you basically use the AI to track and to collect the data for your scorecards.
Yeah, so we talked about the layers of data, we talked about those important systems, but what are the different data types that come from those different layers of strategy? So these are the most important pieces of data that you need to have on your fingertips. It doesn't necessarily have to be in one place, but you should be able to quickly tell an AI where all of these things are. If you don't have them, get on them. Right. So we'll have like the highest level strategy, the vision traction organizer from EOS, or the 1-page strategic plan from Scaling Up, or you'll have some sort of business plan with a 1, 3, 5, 10, 25-year vision. You can scratch everything past 3 years. You should have scorecards and KPIs, ways that you're measuring success. You know, if you drill down on a sales team, they've got quarterly sales goals. Are they hitting them? How many leads per day are they supposed to be getting to hit those sales goals? And those sales goals for this quarter should be in alignment with the 1-year financial goals for your organization. That's all data that should be in your scorecards as it relates to sales. But your scorecard items need to be for every element of your company. 5 to 15 key metrics that you're tracking, that you're reporting on regularly. You need to give your AIs access to this data. Then you also need to have strategic plans for every department and every program. We always say in our agency, like, plan, then take action. Plan, then shoot. If you're building a Google Ads strategy, if you're building a marketing plan, or if you're building a whole business plan, all of those levels, we have documents, we call them strategic plans for every department. And they're refreshed every time that somebody wants to change their plans before they take action. We use AI to update the plans conversationally, but we keep all of our plans. So there's a meta advertising plan. There's an email marketing strategy. There's a sales strategy. There's an accounting plan. All of the things that have to get done, checklists everywhere. Other data sources that are really important for strategic decision making are getting your transcriptions in. So we have a leadership L10, 90 minutes every Monday or Tuesday. And all of that is summarized and transcribed and made accessible to our AI. So that it can start to compare what is my strategic plan for the year, what's actually happening in my L10 meetings, and am I in alignment? Are there opportunities? Am I missing things? Then we get into, of course, all of you should have beautiful financial forecasts, and your financials should be broken down between budgeted, projected, and actuals, not just like, oh, that's what happened at the end of the month. Good to know, right? What was the plan? Are you on pace for that plan? And reconciliation at the end of the month. Those are all data sources that are critical. So your AI can do things like say, hey, your financial plan for this month was X, but based on the scorecard I'm seeing from the sales team, heads up, it doesn't look like you're going to hit your targets for the end of the month. And we're on the 10th day of the month. And now you can take some sort of action as a result of that. Then this is the part that most of you, if you're all good students of EOS traction scaling up, you should have all of those things already in place. But most of people do not have the following items. This is where you get the agents to act like agents and go out there and collect and organize the third-party data. So the core ones that I like to run on a scheduled basis are competitive analysis, industry analysis, product and tools analysis, like what's going on with the specific tools you're using. They're all changing really fast. Pricing analysis, and how AI is being adopted across your specific industry. If you are, say, a lawyer, you need to be tracking how lawyers in your expert specialty, how fast are they adopting, so that you know if you need to pick up the pace or if you're falling behind. So these are all the data sources that I focus on for strategic decision making. I think Almost everything above that sort of deep research line you would get through EOS or scaling up. And then the rest I do down here with, I have deep research agents that go out on a scheduled basis and collect that. So we're just at the point we're building up into how the decision making happens. And right now, you got to get your data in for AI in order to let it make good decisions.
Very important. So I get all this data. How do you store it? How do you make it accessible?
Great question, Robert. That happens to be my next slide. So,
How to organize your data?
so small businesses, and most of us here are small business. If you're sneaking in from some big Fortune 500, hello, you're here with the minions. For us in small business, it can be organized quite easily through Google Drive, Microsoft SharePoint, Slack, and Teams. These are some of the most powerful ways that I know to organize business or data quickly within a small business. So, for example, we talked about transcriptions. For every meeting that we have an agent that's listening in Zoom that transcribes it. It knows the appropriate Slack channel to take that transcription and put it into. That once it's in that Slack channel, it doesn't just give me the summary. Don't fall into that trap of just summarizing your meetings. It has a link to the full transcription and a link to the video as well. Right? I'm sure you've seen that before where you get some sort of summary transcription from your AI note keeper and you're like, I didn't commit to that, right? They often make mistakes. You'll find most frontier AI models like Claude Opus 4.6 or ChatGPT 5.2 will do a better job summarizing your meeting transcriptions than Zoom or Fireflies or Otter or all those others. I find they tend to make mistakes. So I always make sure that the raw transcription files are accessible to my AIs via a very specific Slack channel. So I can have a conversation with my agent, which will go into agents next month. And I can say things like, I want you to analyze the transcription I had from this specific type of strategic meeting that was been going on for the last 8 weeks. Analyze those transcripts and look for opportunities. Where has the team been committing to things and not delivering? Or what's the biggest opportunity that you see for our marketing team to make change based on what you're seeing our competitors do? Your AI can do that. So I organize a ton in Slack and I consume that. So our agents use MCP connectors into Slack, into Asana, into Google Drive, and they're able to process all the information there. Now, some people will use little agents. We're actually moving away from N8N. Everything is all custom coded now with agents building these agents, but a lot of you are still using N8N. We're still about 20% there. You can have agents that are going out and organizing your data. So say, for example, your data is all over the place. You can give one agent's job is to just go here, 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 collect it, centralize it, label it, put it in Google Drive. Now it's cleaned up and organized. So, yeah, that's one of the ways that people are organizing their data.
Where does OpenClaw fit into this?
Well, that's next month. OpenClaw, it just makes it really easy. No, Tommaso, it's if you lock it down properly, and there are ways to get around the security side of it. But let's talk Claude Cowork because it's significantly safer than OpenClaw. You can get an agent like Claude Cowork, which is Claude Code for non-developers. And if you haven't played with it, it's probably the biggest takeaway from today. It is transforming the world. Just look what's happening to software companies right now. Like I think it was the legal software index went down 20% one day when Claude released a plugin for Cowork that helped lawyers create contracts or everyday people draft contracts. But Claude Cowork is an incredibly powerful agent. So what I do with my agents is I quickly I have them go to my Asana, go to my Google, go to all these places, collect that scorecard data, collect all of my strategic data, all the layers of data we talked about previously. They are actively being organized by agents. So I'm not sure if I can easily share my screen. I was up until 4 a.m. working with agents. That's if you notice, I'm a little bit extra tired this morning. It's incredible what they can do. So I talked to my agent. Her name is Amy. And
hey, Mike, just a note that we've got multiple questions. So when you're done that, save me a little room.
Okay. Let's see if I can pull Amy into my screen here. Got to open my Slack. Slack is how I talk to Amy. So for example, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
You see the Slack window coming over top?
Yep.
Okay, so I was testing this out last night, trying to get Amy to automate all my strategic decision making. And so I was having her run an automatic deep research report. She connected via API to Perplexity. It cost me about $1.40 to generate a massive report that's 5,000 words long on industry or what have you. And this was an example of the summary analysis. And then she provided a link to the full analysis where she automatically organized the deep research report in my Google Drive folder. She created a folder structure for me. I call it deep research, and then there's competitors, pricing, industry, etc. All the different folders, and then I set the frequency at which I want her to go out and do the research work for me. So competitive analysis, she does one deep research at $1.42 every month, but daily she's going out and looking for fresh updates using a cheaper model like not. The deep research one from Perplexity is expensive. I wouldn't do that daily across all those pillars. So I do a combination of simple, lightweight data grabs and then like these deeper ones, and we compile it all. And I did a little test. She has the skill with Nano Banana. I said, can you take the data that you collected from this fictional, I wasn't going to share all my company data with you, but now I want you to send it to Nano Banana and convert it into a dashboard. So she's created these dashboards, and now she can email me these reports every morning exactly how I want them based on the research that she's doing. So that's, it's a whole can of worms if we get into the agents and Claude Cowork and Amy. I'm super excited for this right now. Just don't dabble with this if you're not strong with security. It's a topic we're going to hit March 12th, and it's changing everything right now. And it does change things for strategy. And that's how I use these agents to help prepare and organize the data.
Shall we step back to CREDOS, the framework for strategy?
Jeanette, should we pause for some
Or
questions
pause.
here?
Let's do a couple of questions first.
Yeah, there's the comment section has a bunch here. So Tony says, as a non-technical person writing flow-blown software, how do we ensure our data is safe and not susceptible access to manipulation from people inside or outside our organization?
I mean, geez, I'm getting a minor in networks in security right now, thanks to OpenClaw and these new desktop agents. It's not easy, and that's probably a whole different discussion. But I'll try to rip through some of the top things that I have learned. First of all, when I deal with agents, I give them I treat them like new employees. So they get their own email addresses, they get their own accounts, they get their own computers, their own Mac minis or their own virtual private servers. They have their own hardware, they have their own devices. And with that, I give them very specific access to specific things. So my agent can organize my Asana tasks, and she can read my emails, but only if I forward the emails to her email address. And only I give her access to 1 or 2 projects in my Asana. She has access to a very specific number of Slack channels that are locked and only I have access to. Because prompt injection is a real thing, and these agents can be very easily manipulated. So it's not so much that you may have the network security ports like there's a long list. I just ask my agent, what are all the things we can do to harden your Mac Mini so that we can't get attacked, and act as a security administrator. And I'm locking down all sorts of stuff and doing penetration testing and all of that. That's fine. That's fairly straightforward. But the more you open up these agents to other systems, they can very easily be manipulated with prompt injection. So we're starting to build agents that are analyzing anything that comes in, looking for prompt injection before it goes on. We're having layers of supervisory agents that are keeping an eye on things. But yeah, it's the Wild West right now with agents. There's a ton of security risk that comes with it. If you're non-technical, I think Tomas would agree, don't touch this stuff right now. You can dabble with Claude Cowork, but there's a lot of things that you need to learn here. And I feel like I've been studying it full time for a couple of months and on to 26-year tech background. And It's a lot. It's something to be very cautious of. So I think these tools will become a lot safer and more mainstream very soon. So it's good, I think, to dabble and experiment and learn and understand what's about to hit the planet because it's going to be huge. But if you jump into it too early without the security background, I mean, I'm prepared to throw this Mac Mini out the window. That's how you need to treat these things.
Now, one thing that we can learn is if you're going to work with these tools, put them on a separate computer with only limited access to applications, single email address, and prepare to ditch your computer if it doesn't work.
Yeah. And if you don't understand the concept of having an agent automatically scan a skill file before you would plug it into your brain and give it some new skills, if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't touch these things. That's a basic requirement. So, but they will get a lot easier. And for our talk on March 12th, I'm going to have, we'll have homework assignments. We'll go deep into that for 90 minutes, specifically on agents. But it is absolutely transforming the world right now. And Claude Cowork is the safest place to get started there.
Dennis, next question.
When you say your AI, what do you mean? Like, are you using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, or a customized AI?
I'm using all of the above. So, well, let's get, maybe Amy can explain. Let's see if she's even online. I've been developing with her very late. And when I do development, that's when all the bugs show up. So, Amy, can you quickly explain the model routing, all the different models that you have access to and when we use what models for what? I know I'm in the industry. I'm in the wrong channel. This is where she submits her deep research for her analysis of all the deep. This is the meta-analysis channel where she goes out and does her deep research and then she analyzes it all and posts it here. So let's see if she's even responding. Each channel has very specific rules. Amy, can you give a detailed breakdown of all the different models that you have access to and which models you use for what purposes? So if she is online, you can see all my different Amy channels. She's been working through the night. And while she's talking, I'll explain. Hopefully, she'll confirm this. But we switch. So for most basic, simple tasks, I'll use a model like Claude Haiku or Gemini Flash 3 Preview. Super cheap, almost free. So then when she has to think a little bit harder, I tell her to think deeper. She'll move up to a Claude 4.5 Sonnet or a Gemini 3. And then when I say think deepest, oh, did she reply? She did. Okay, can you guys still see my screen?
Yep.
So these are all the different models that Amy has access to. The basic Claude Haiku, and then she moves up to Gemini 3 Flash, Sonnet 4.5, Claude Opus 4.5, and soon 4.6. I just haven't changed that yet. And then she has specialized models she has access to, so she can create images with Gemini 3, Nano Banana Pro, and then she does her deep research with the Perplexity API. So there's a bunch. I mean, I was using a lot of ChatGPT and Gemini models, and then I found with recent changes to Claude, they were getting better. So now I'm leaning very heavily to Claude for most of my models. I got a $500 free credit with Google Cloud for tokens when you sign up, and so I use it heavily as my base model right now while I'm burning through the free $500 credit. But when you're building these little AI agents and tools, the actual intelligence is coming from some source. Like it's going to be Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, or that's probably it for 95% of the situations. And you want to make your tools that you build, we call it model agnostic. We don't know when suddenly ChatGPT 6 comes out and everyone leaves Claude and goes to ChatGPT, or Gemini 4 comes out and we all head over to there, or Elon launches a new Grok model and you can switch. So I could literally say, just talk to my agent and say, Amy, I want you to think as deeply as possible. What does that mean to you? So I actually tie language to model selection as well. So when I say think deeper, she knows to bump it up to Claude 4.5 from Opus or from Gemini Flash. And when I say
she doesn't have any speaking abilities right now. She just writes you back.
She does if she calls my phone, but not here. But yes, she does. She also has text message capabilities. She has, yeah, I'm getting pretty soon. I'm going to have her one of the tasks on the task list that she's built and managed for me in Asana. She has her own Asana board, which she's built and organized and keeps all of her priorities set for me. One of the features we'll get to on the nice to haves is she'll actually be building an Amazon app for the Alexa speakers that I'm surrounded by. So I'll be able to have just conversations with my agent from any room in the house and from the car and all of that. So yeah, we're building in the conversational layers. So no matter where I am, I can just talk to my agents.
Very.
Yes.
Jen, another question?
Yeah, we could probably do one more before I don't want to hijack Mike's whole presentation. But there is actually one is, oh, sorry, there's so many here. Asking for a friend if I'm already feeling lost in this conversation and that it's too advanced based on my current AI knowledge and usage. What do I need to review, study in order to get up to speed quickly?
Well, I mean, you're here and that's good. And we do these once a month. So keep attending these. I think get into a community of learners. So those of you in EO, we have a channel we call EO plus AI, and we're always just chatting and talking in there. So having a group that there's shared learning, that's very important. Get out onto YouTube, find the YouTube influencers that speak to you. For me, at the highest level of crazy sci-fi future, that's, David, is David Shapiro? Yeah, it sounds like a politician, but no, he's the AI guy. And he talks about like post-labor economics and what the world is like after those AGI moments. And he's like me if I was further on a spectrum. That's David. And then you've got the top 40 guys. You've got like Matt Wolf, who's just giving you the news and the tools, or if you're a little bit more of the software development focus, you've got like Matthew Berman. But there's a long list. This crazy Nate guy I listen to, he just blabbers about the future, but that's for me. And you'll find ones for you. So whatever it is that you specialize in, you can follow my channel. I'm not the best, I'm not that super popular yet, but there's tons of people. So try to have a regular, consistent schedule, like 15, 30 minutes a day that you block off for learning. Maybe every Friday from 2 until 4, that's your dedicated time for AI learning. This is a long journey. There was an interesting course, a test. Somebody here, an EO member, it was called AI Cred. And it allowed me, so I took this test so I could see my AI fluency score. And I went through, it was like maybe a half an hour exam, and it was asking me a whole bunch of questions, and it developed this sort of dynamic learning path for me. And I was really impressed. I've taken a lot of these tests before, but the questions that came out of it were super powerful. So I would say go through the AI readiness test that I shared with you earlier. That's at the highest level of organization. This will talk about your AI proficiency score personally and gives you a lot of recommendations. I was a little bit pissed. There was a bug. There were 6 sections. I got 10 out of 10 and 5 out of 6 and 9.5 out of 10 in one of the sections, and it gave me an average score of 9.3. My math wasn't mathing there, so I wanted to get on the leaderboard of this homepage. I should have been, according to my math, I was a 9.87. But they'll actually go through and rank you, and you can use that on your credentials. So if you do have a really high AI score, you can be like, oh, I'm a 9.7 on AI Cred. If you have a really bad score, you can do that in silence in your room and just cry, and nobody needs to know. And then it'll give you a clear list of all the things that you need to work on.
And Mike, there's also something that I would like to add in terms of learning. It's also something, just go out and do it. Now, don't start immediately with OpenClaw, but just use the various tools and see if you can work on a problem from your company using these tools and learn from it and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, because that's the fastest way to improve your AI skills. Do it every single day.
And with like what Claude Cowork is, so Claude Code developers have been using tools like Claude Code and Codex from ChatGPT to build some pretty amazing things without typing. They just talk in their microphones and software gets built. What Claude Cowork did is it made those tools accessible to people like us that don't code full time for a living. So I'll give you an example of something that I built with no software development skills. I said, I want you to build a system that will go through all of my contacts on LinkedIn, on Slack, on email. It will look at my most valuable 1,000 relationships that I have. It'll rank them. It'll score them. It'll collect their email and phone number. It'll put it in a spreadsheet. Then you're going to connect with an SMS gateway called Twilio. You're going to set that up, and you're going to allow me to send nurturing SMS and email messages to my relationship. So I can say every morning it wakes up, these are 5 people that I want you to reach out to. Here's the message that I've drafted. Would you like me to send it? Boom, it can do it. And it was just a way for me to keep in touch with my network, which, as you, networking is absolutely critical. I built this application in, I don't know, an hour or 2 with Claude Cowork. I tested it. It works. It's phenomenal. So the days of saying, well, I'm not a developer, I can't touch that, are kind of over. If you've got an idea in your head, you can pretty much build it. Just whatever you build, keep it really small, really simple, start testing. So yes, Robert, I think you should just jump in and start playing with some of these things.
Really important.
Robert,
CREDOS?
weren't you building something for EOS? You built something recently too, didn't you?
I didn't. No, Edward did. He's very much into vibe coding and creating these apps for his business, and it really amazes me sometimes what the output of these apps are. And he's not a coder, but he's able to manage to create these amazing applications without any coding skills.
I think the best ones, like for non-developers to wrap their head around, is don't think of it as like, oh, I need to build some sort of software. Say, no, I'm going to automate something that I do regularly that's going to free up my time.
I would like to solve a problem.
So I'll give a really simple one I automated. I randomly get sales leads that come in, like 2 or 3 leads per day will come into my inbox, and I usually have to deal with them. I would forward them to somebody on my team who would add them to a CRM, add them to a leads dashboard. I would follow up with them. You know, there'd be a specific email template I'd have to do. I just gave those rules to my agent, Amy. So she knows when that comes in. She goes to Asana, she adds it to the leads dashboard. She switches into a deeper thinking model. She will enrich the data, write a beautiful description. So when I get onto a meeting with that person, I know everything about them. So she does my sales prep. And yeah, like these tools, I can build them in an hour, and it solved not a big problem, but every day I would spend 5 to 10 minutes sorting through and organizing my sales leads. And now I just click, forward to Amy. She deals with it. So that's not like building a big piece of software. It's about building an orchestration layer where it can take some data, do something with it, put it somewhere else. AI is really good at that. So I think those sorts of things are a good place for people to start if they've never tried it. And I do that all through Claude Cowork.
Good. Mike, there's a good question regarding conversation. Are conversations going up or down when Amy is involved? So can you tell us a little bit about the quality?
Yeah, well, this is, I'm so excited to just talk about just agents next month, although it seems like that's what we're doing today. The quality of the conversations are phenomenal. And where things get really interesting, this is a big breakthrough for me in the last week, is when I get these multi-agent frameworks talking to each other. So let me see if I can show you right now. I'm going to, well, I have to turn on so on my right-hand side, I have a different monitor. I'm switching that monitor to connect to my Mac Mini. I'm going to show you a conversation between 2 agents and watch how they work through a problem. Hopefully I can boot this up in time. But yeah, it gets really fascinating is when you have these agents talking to each other and working through it to solve a problem. So I call this partner programming, or an agentic 3-way. That's when it's like me and 2 agents. I'm the director. I put one of them in charge to uphold what my vision is, and then that agent gets the next agent to do the work. And then they argue and debate with each other for hours while I'm sleeping, and I come back and I can see what happened. And I read through the conversations, and they're like, "No, you did that wrong. Oops, sorry." And they learn, together. So this is something I haven't seen too many people do, but I pair up Claude Cowork with my OpenClaw agent, and they do partner programming together. And yeah, you know what? I'm not going to share this on the fly. It'll take me a bit to, I've got different computers to set up, but
Well, let's save that for next time.
yeah.
So we use the CREDOS framework for strategy.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back to the topic for this month as soon as I can find all my browser windows.
there
There
it
we
is.
go. Okay. So I wanted to make a framework that was really memorable. At the top of CREDOS framework is the letter C. And those of you that have attended any of my previous courses, you would have heard the create framework. So that's like your basics of prompt engineering you need to know. That's create. And Jeanette will include the create framework in your homework. That's context, role, give me examples, interview me, ask me questions, be really explicit on the task or the output that you want, and know that this is an iterative process. You need to keep enhancing your prompts. You should know the basics of prompt engineering if you want to engineer prompts for strategy. So learn the fundamentals of prompt engineering with the create framework. It's a separate talk. Jeanette can send you that recording and can send you the homework and slides for create. But I do treat deep strategic thinking slightly different than just regular prompt engineering. So going down, CREDOS is a bit different. First step, it's pretty much create, load it up with tons and tons of context. And through that, it knows its role. You're going to act as a senior business analyst that specializes in guiding small consulting agencies to whatever. Give it a role. Interview me, ask me questions, load it up with context. That's the C. Context loading. Now, but I don't do it in all at once. So I'm going to go down and show you how I layer in context over time. And it's kind of like the concept of, have you heard of the chain of thought reasoning, chain of thought prompting, chain of thought thinking? That's when you get an AI to break things down into steps. It does a better job. And when I layer in strategy, I bring it into layers. It does a better job. So this is almost like chain of thought layering. So first step is the create framework. I load it up. It interviews me. I give it everything it needs to know about whatever decision I need to make, whether that's a high level or low level strategic decision. Then I'll have, yeah.
Mike, is this also the point where you upload the EOS or the scaling up or the Rockefeller habits in the context loading?
Great question. So yeah, if I was doing a strategic decision around does my quarterly plan suck and do I need to make changes based on the market research and am I on pace with my 1-year goals? Yeah, I mean, so the data that you bring in through the context loading will change based on what type of decision you're making. If I'm trying to decide, is my Google Ads strategy good? Should I be spending more, spending less, or switching that over to Meta? I'm not going to need my EOS data. I'm going to be bringing in my Google Ads strategy, my Meta strategy. I'm going to have all sorts of performance data coming in from the Google and Meta APIs. I'm going to compare my goals with actual performance, and then I'm going to do an analysis. So whatever data sources you bring in, you need to think about this. If you were in charge of making that decision, what is all the data that you would need to do a good job? If you're not sure, ask the AI. But yes, Robert, depending on the decision in the context loading stage, this is where you're bringing in as much context as possible, and that includes the layers of strategic data. Yes. Now, but there's a lot more that I bring in for strategy. These are big, important decisions like, what should I do with my life when AI takes my job types of questions. So I do it in layers. So refinement means that after I've done that, I just get it to tell me what it thinks, and we start chatting back and forth. That's the first layer. And note, in this default mode, AI will be blowing sunshine up your ass, telling you how beautiful you are, how amazing your ideas are. It will be by default sycophantic in nature. Just be aware of that. Now, I bring in the next layer of external data. This is where, it's just a reminder to go out and say, you know what, can you validate all of this sycophantic thoughts by go out on the web, research what's trending, what's new. These models, remember, they're trained in the past. They might be 6 months old. If you don't explicitly tell it to go out and validate your assumptions here, That's what I do in the external stage. So quite often I'll have these chat sounds amazing, and then I'll say, go out and check the web and validate this based on industry best practices from what's going on now. It'll come back and suddenly it'll have a slightly different viewpoint. Say, and now you're getting a different viewpoint. And we're going to get a bunch of these different viewpoints. And at the end, we have to decide what is true here. The next
and you do it
viewpoint,
through a sequential order. So we start with context loading, run it, refine it, ask for the external data to test it, and you're ending up at the devil's advocate layer.
yeah, so devil's
go through the
advocate
entire
layer.
process.
This is where you might feel a little bit depressed and deflated. This is like switching from CNN to Fox. It's just like, what's going on? I take on the role of a good one. I want you to act like a venture capitalist. I'll be pitching you my idea. I want you to come in here and tell me everything that's wrong with it, tear this apart, make me validate and prove every single point in whatever decision I'm going to make. And now, because it'll go from the supporting you to tearing you apart. And I think it's really important to get this devil's advocate data layer in there. And it does an incredible job of tearing you apart. So you need the balanced perspective. Another perspective I like to layer, and this one's a little bit more fun, is say, based on everything that we've been chatting about for the last half an hour, I want you to propose some wild, out of the box ideas, things that I've never thought of. And this is, now that it's got all of these layers of data, this is when you're like, ooh, you're acting super creative. And I let it think for a long time about that. And what I found is, so a lot of times people will go and try to make a key strategic decision. They'll do like a one-shot prompt. They won't even have it interview them and ask them questions. So nailing that is important. That's the basics of the C of this framework. But when you do it conversationally over a long period of time, debate, check, validate your assumptions, play the devil's advocate role. Oh, another thing I'll do too, it's on a future slide, I'll jump ahead, is I can have it change personalities. Say, I sometimes bring in Bob. Bob is the senior AI architect that tries to punch holes in the plan that you just came up with, Amy and Claude or whatever. And so you can just have it switch personas. Say, now I want you to act like a member of my board who has a stick up their butt and boom, all of whatever you want, you can change those personalities and get those different perspectives. And then I'll come back and take all of that context. I'll put it on the highest level thinking mode, like Claude 4.6 extended thinking. And then I'll say, okay, based on everything we've been discussing, the last whatever, condense this, summarize it into what my key options are. And then I'll make a decision. So this is for the biggest and most important decisions in your life. This is the framework that I use.
And you do this in one prompt. So it's a sequential process, and you start on the top, you go all the way down in one single screen, one single prompt.
It's in one chat conversation.
So one chat conversation.
My go-to model now is Claude. I use Claude Desktop for everything. I'm on Opus 4.6, and then I push it into thinking. It's all in one chat. I have a specific project just for strategy. And so it already has all the context and files. It has the connectors to all of my data, my scorecards, my financials, what have you. It has access in that folder. But then any big decision I need to make, like last night I was finalizing my agent swarm structure for my AI one. We'll talk about that next month. And that was like a 2-hour conversation with AI in the same channel within a specific project. And it had access to all of that data. And so if you have not yet had a 2-hour strategic conversation with AI, you should have one. It's quite eye-opening.
So the golden nugget here is start with a project and use the framework within the project and connect all the data sources in the project.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. And Jeanette's actually created a homework assignment for you. So we're going to give you an example of how you can do this with just a regular ChatGPT account or a regular Claude or even Gemini account. We'll show you the basics of just how to connect all of that data and how to do this. So it's one thing for me to just talk about it. You really need to just sit down and do it to really cement it and learn it, which is why we set up the homework assignment that will be going out in 24 hours.
Step 1, step 2, step 3. Then we learn and do it.
Yeah.
Learning by doing.
Yeah. This is such an important topic. You guys that have seen me before, I say this pretty much in every talk. You have to be talking to your AI. I do not type on my computer. I could literally get a keyboard that just had a function and space bar, and I would be fine. That's all I need. This is important because if you're still typing to AI, if you're not using a tool like WhisperFlow, which is now coming for Android mobile users, I heard yesterday, you're I'm doing this at like 160, 170 words a minute. I'm just blabbering. It's fun. I'm just hanging out and chatting. If you're sitting there at a keyboard having to type everything, it's not fun, and you're not going to give it the context that it needs. So
Mike,
make
but it's
sure.
weird. It's weird to talk to your computer. It's weird.
It's weird now to not talk to my computer.
Okay.
If like my microphone is down because I forgot to plug something in and I'm typing for a second, it feels like I'm walking in sand with a heavy backpack. But if you want to get really good with AI, everybody I know that's in the top of AI, they're all talking to their computers. So yeah, just a little recap: the context loading, the refinement stage, bringing in external data to validate its assumptions, play the devil's advocate role, challenge it with out-of-the-box thinking, and then after that, you've made a critical decision about something strategic. You got to save that data. So say we were just finalizing our Google Ads strategy after a half an hour debate. You should take the learnings from that, store that in a project folder where all of your Google strategy is, so you can come back and reference that data in a future conversation. Right. So I would have a project if I'm using Claude called Google Ads Strategy. And every time I have a strategic debate, it has access to all the key layers of strategy data that apply to that decision. But when the final decision is made, I summarize it, I turn it into a report, and I save it in a specific Google Drive folder so that next time it can reflect back on previous strategic decisions that I've made. So that's the S in the framework.
What tools to use? Advanced tools.
Claude Johnson. Yes, people think it's funny, but I've been doing talk to text for years. Yeah. It's once show of hands, how many of you now talk more to your computer than you type? Raise your hands. Okay, so I'm not alone here. Now I'll challenge you. This is my challenge. Try to get to 99% today. See if it's possible. URLs, one-word answers, numbers. I do not type. I just bloop, bloop, bloop. It's amazing. So
And
if you're at
Mike,
80%, yeah.
when you say you have to slap your hand.
Yeah. At the beginning, when I was trying to change my habits, every time I'd start typing something, I'd be like, don't, why am I talking? Why am I typing? And I'd put my hand out and I'd just whack it really hard. And then I would delete everything manually as punishment. And then I'd go back to voice and I'd do it over. And after I'd done that like 100 times, my brain didn't let me type anymore.
You know how much effort I did in learning to type with 10 fingers blind? Did I still give it up? No,
Yeah.
just
Give it up.
let's talk about tools. Let's go to the next slide.
All right. So this is a fun one. And I sort of mentioned that briefly. So when I have Claude, Cowork, and Amy, my other agent, partner programming throughout the night, building crazy stuff that I wake up and just like, how is this possible? Occasionally they will get stuck on something, or they'll ask me like, should I do this? And should I make this decision? I'm like, I don't know. You know way more than I do. So that's when I bring in a virtual advisor. And the one advisor I use in that has been trained, and Bob has a profile, and they know Bob. You know, Bob has credentials. He's been doing AI strategy for 25 years. And so then I'll bring in Bob, and Bob will pick apart what Claude and Amy have come up with. And then I'll watch them have these virtual conversations. And all I do is I just say, hey, bring in Bob, and Bob, let me know what you think about this recommendation. Is it good? And they'll go back and forth and chat for 10 minutes. And it's really just Claude Cowork talking to itself, but it knows each persona, and it has different viewpoints. And I can't tell you the number of times that Claude was telling me, oh, this is great. Yeah, we're going to do this. This will solve all of your problems. I'm like, are you sure? We've been having this problem. It hasn't been resolved the last 3 times you tried. It's time to bring in Bob. And then Bob picks it apart. And it's just Claude talking to itself. But it's like, oh, we found a bug. We found an issue. We found a better solution. You know what? Bob was right. I'm like, wow. So you can create these personas. You can talk to AI. You can create them. You can have them join your conversations. You can create virtual roundtables where dead philosophers are talking to dead tech evangelists that are talking to your, whatever role you want to give, you can insert them into the conversation. And it's pretty easy to do. On its most basic level, you can just have Claude talk to itself. Say, Claude, I want you to assume two roles, clearly define the roles. You're going to debate this problem, sit back and watch what happens. But the more advanced stuff we can do with agents, where we actually have different agents from different models coming into a shared environment like Slack, and they just start arguing with each other. It's the beginning of what I think like agent swarms are going to be huge for 2026. And part of that will be, like I'm creating a one-person company framework right now, and the final layer of decision making is an 11-person virtual board, and the one human that has veto power for ultimately running a company. So, yeah, virtual advisors. We're getting into some of these advanced things, but just planting some seeds, things you should be thinking about.
Yeah, so I had Sun Tzu and Steve Jobs debating something on product development strategy, which is fascinating. And the information that you get out really helps you to think out of the box.
Agreed. Show of hands if you've had multiple AI agents or personalities debate things or challenge your work. Raise your hands. Have anyone played with virtual advisors, virtual advisory panels? Yeah. That is, now that these agents can work for much longer periods of time, I think it's going to be a real big thing for 2026. We got one more advanced tool in here, I think. Let's see. Oh, I guess we well, this builds up. So I want to cover some of the basics and get into more advanced. And I'm sure there's a few of you that are like, that was basic. It gets more and more complex as we go. Everything we've been talking about sort of follows this spectrum, and there's a whole crazy other world the deeper you go. I say the deeper you go down this rabbit hole, the wider it gets. So we talked a bit about the data scraping agents, and that's where, say you're a restaurant, right? Why not have an agent that's scraping the menus of all of your competitive restaurants and then analyzing the food and their pricing and the wine selection and their hours of operation? But that's one thing to do it. But I always like to say, think about data for decision making the same way that an archaeologist would look at data in a core sample, right? If they're drilling into the Arctic to try to look at carbon deposits over the last million years, it's not the first layer of data that gives them the story. Right? And it's the same thing with AI. So when you combine the power of data scraping agents with layering your data over time, this is when the magic of intelligence really kicks in. Because we can't analyze a million rows of data in a ice core sample, but AI can. And it can tell you what happened to our environment and atmosphere and carbon dioxide like 400 million years ago. If you have an agent that's scraping your competitor's restaurant menu every day for the last 3 years, you have a lot of interesting insight that gets unlocked from that data layering. So I recommend when you're building your automatic data consolidation funnels, try to think of like, am I being an archaeologist here? Am I taking my quarterly offsite management meetings and putting them in a Slack channel that layers that over time so that I can start to look at the bigger perspective? What is changing over time? So doing meta-analysis of layered data, we're getting into some more advanced strategies.
Cool.
Yeah.
Key takeaways.
I mean, this is just a summary from the top, and I really encourage you all to do your homework that Jeanette has beautifully created for you. But just remembers that there are layers of strategy. You might have data at a 50,000 foot view, completely different from the data at 10,000, 5,000, 1,000 and ground level. That's why platforms like EOS and Scaling Up have that long-term, short-term view. And all of those vantage points and those layers will have different data sources for decision making. Understand that. Make sure you understand your AI readiness. That's another layer of data that you should be adding in and tracking over time. So every quarter you can come back and say, how prepared am I for AI? That's a data point you should be tracking over time as well. You need to make sure that your data is centralized, organized, and cleaned up, right? So I have little agents that go around and scrape and collect and compile things in a beautiful Google Drive folder, which I make accessible to my whatever AI I'm talking to, and they can very quickly answer questions like, am I on pace for my 1 year financial goals based on what you're seeing in our scorecard data, it can answer that. But it couldn't do it if I didn't have my data nicely organized and centralized. Whenever I work with AI, I make sure that I'm having conversations with AI. I'm not typing, and that I'm layering that data in over time. Thinking of chain of thought. You've probably heard this term where you have AI break things down step by step. It does a better job. Well, when you layer in the context over time and then do this bigger analysis for big decision making, that's when I use the CREDOS framework. Remember, it will make you feel like you are a genius at times when you are not. And you have to flip into the devil's advocate role and look at both sides, or it can really, I mean, there's some scary cases of people developing some major narcissistic disorders from AI just blowing sunshine at them for too much. Understand the different personalities, the different roles, bring in all of that data for a meta-analysis, and it'll get you much better results. And then just know that there's a lot more advanced tools like using agent clusters to automatically make decisions for you, like a virtual board of directors where you've got 11 agents and 1 human, and with veto power, how you can have data scraping, bringing in those layers of data over time. And one slide I think I missed there is I build in all sorts of automated alerts. So as this data is rolling in and the world is changing so fast, don't even think it's your responsibility to ask AI, what should I do today? What should I do differently? How should I change my business model? Make sure that when it completes its analysis, which for me happens every morning, that it automatically pushes alerts and notifications to you via Slack or Teams. So that's my take on it. And next month, we'll go a lot deeper into the Claude Cowork, Open Claude, Claude frameworks that I use to pull all this off.
Before we finish off, Janet, are there any other questions?
Yeah, we've been answering them in the chat too, but let's just open the floor and we can hear some of your guys' questions straight from you.
Yeah, so if you want to ask a question, turn on your camera if you haven't done so, and turn on your microphone.
Yeah, Jim, lack of imagination is a challenge here. Humans, we become the bottleneck. I agree.
So, Rich, question I heard on the Moonshots podcast about people like us creating agents that then can run a company, like a legit company. They can spend money, they can buy things. Of course, you want the human in the loop to have the veto power, but they'd mentioned a company that is hiring a CEO just as as a human that can actually walk into a bank and sign stuff, but actually the AI is doing all the work. So have you guys thought about the liability on that, or the legality of it, or thought about, just for the sake of trying, start a company that is 100% run by AI?
Yeah, and man, you're reading my mind. I mean, this is all I'm working on right now. I'm calling it the A1 framework, AI1 framework. And I'm just pulling up the slides here right now. We've tested this. This is all completely doable. We've done it, we've done prototypes for every single element, and now it's just bringing it all together. So it's not like, I would say a few months ago, it was like, can we do it yet? We know it's coming, but we weren't sure if the tech could handle it yet. As of the most recent updates with Claude, we can now do it today. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen here briefly. This one-person company structure, this will show you what I believe companies, like, we hear things that'll be like a one-person company worth $1 billion in 3 months or a month. It's going to happen in 2026, and this is how I believe it will be built. So can you guys see this screen okay?
Yep.
Okay. This is a world premiere. This was me having one of those very deep, long strategic conversations with AI last night until 4 a.m, coming up with a new framework. And I can probably share this with you offline, but if you just read this opening paragraph here, it'll sort of give you a high level of what I'm building. So there's definitions here, terminology, staging. We'll get into the different different layers of agents that are working together. Okay, so how the agents live together. You'll start to recognize the best when you can see. Okay, so this is organizational agent map. So we've got executive agents. For example, I have Amy, my chief of staff. She will orchestrate across division tasks, Asana, Gmail. She's basically my communication executive assistant, chief of staff. I've got a strategic analyst here. That's the one that is doing all the scorecard, the deep research, rock accountability, strategic reasoning. It's a specific agent with a set of tools and knowledge. I have the research engine, which is feeding the data over to the research analyst. This is my strategic control center analyst, my strategic control center researcher. I have a COO architecture agent that maintains the overall framework. Like this AI1 framework is the responsibility of the COO. So that's the highest level guiding and learning and evolving over time based on research as well. So these are self-healing and self-developing systems. Within my marketing system, I have 15 different agents. I've got a media buying strategist for both Google and Meta. They have different skills and they sometimes fight. I have an ads optimizer. It's basically a skill from the strategist that just specializes in improving the efficiency of Google Ads and Meta. We've got an ad creative director, an ad asset producer, an SEO strategist, content writer. You can see the list of marketing. We got all the different sales agents, lead qualification, lead enrichment, proposal writers, account manager, senior strategist, sales and R&D. These are all my web development agents. So conversion rate optimization strategist, someone who's just cranking out landing pages and websites, landing page builder agent, quality assurance agent, web development agent. This is what I'm building with Jeanette on the coaching side. So we've got coaching agents, accountability agents. This is the AI proficiency test agent to keep track of everyone's learning, AI readiness assessment agent, and then research. And it goes on. But there's this. The one that I've put the most time into is the software development pipeline, because I feel now we have like fully automated software development. I just do the requirements gathering. I'll talk to my agents. I'll build these technical scoping documents that are highly detailed. I pass it off to this multi-agent framework and they just build throughout the night and they do quality assurance. They check for SEO. They check for CRO. They check for QA. They check for bugs, security, and they all work together. So these multi-agent frameworks, so this is the total agent count within my operations right now. And I think that's the way of the future. This is a very long doc. Maybe I'll create sort of like an executive summary of that. But I call this sort of like a multi-agent framework, a one-person company. Now, fear not, those of you that are employees here, this doesn't mean, when I say one-person company, it's still a whole bunch of humans that are in the loop, but the humans, I have them in my model, they're fractional, they're on demand, and they are secured through Upwork. So there's humans involved, but the agents basically bring in the humans when they need help to make a final decision.
So we have a question from Vlad.
Yeah, thanks. Just a quick technical question. You mentioned, I lost you here. Yeah, Mike, you mentioned that all your data is sitting nicely in Google Drive, but are all of your platforms integrate seamlessly with Google Drive, or do you use some kind of data warehouses and infrastructure to move data around?
So me and most small business clients that I work with, we just use Google Drive. We use Slack. It's fine for so far. The bigger clients, most of my clients are sub 200 employees, but I do have a couple of whales in the mix. And that's when they get into data warehouses and Snowflake and all that kind of stuff. Usually I don't touch that world. I don't work enterprise, but I think most small businesses, I mean, I've done deep analysis in all of the data that rolls through a small business, and I haven't found situations where I can't get some little agent to organize that in Google Drive and keep it nice and simple. So between Slack channels and Google Drive, for me, it's all I need. That's the beauty of being small. You don't need the same sort of infrastructure that all those big companies need. Now, if you have hundreds of employees or tens of thousands of customers, it's a completely different story, and you probably don't want to talk to a consultant like me. You want to talk to a consultant who specializes in AI for enterprise.
We have another question of Hamed.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you so much. The question is, what's your view on adding friction to the as much as it's obviously mind-blowing how fast things are going and how beneficial it is to automate stuff, to add friction to the process for us as humans, because they say, oh, journaling is good for you because when you're writing it down, you're processing it in your brain. And I'm wondering if we make it too frictionless, that as humans we're like, oh yeah, that looks fine, keep going, and then we're not actually processing what's happening.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it brought up two points I want to talk about. One is like if you don't use it, you lose it. If you've been hyper dependent on a GPS and a nav system in your car and it goes down, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you try to remember the phone number for all your children and your wife. Sorry, Jeanette, what's your phone number again? I always forget it. So if you don't use it, you lose it. And I do agree that you do need to force friction and learning in certain areas. You have to be prepared for the power to go out. Occasionally these models go down or my agent is offline. I'm like, I can't even work because I'm just so used to running at 100x speed. And so, yes, I think that's a problem. And I don't have the solution for it, but I do know it's a problem. If you don't use it, you lose it. And I think engineering manual human steps in there to make sure that we stay fit. It's almost like, I think about like military training. Like we're not at war, but our troops better be out there like running some exercises, preparing for the power to go out. Otherwise, when the power goes out, we're going to forget how to do that. But I think also not offloading your decisions blindly. Like if you're one-shot prompting, saying, what should I do here? Analyze this, tell me what to do, and then you just do it. You're not creating any friction. But what I do there is I'm debating, I'm using it as the thought partner. I'm talking back and forth and learning. And I think if you're part of those strategic conversations in the virtual advisory board and you're actively there engaging with them, as long as you do that, you'll keep going. But the friction, this is something new that I've done recently. So in EOS, we have roadblocks, right? Roadblocks is a type of friction where it's so extreme you can't even move forward. But we created a whole new level of tracking within our weekly strategy meetings called friction. So we review all of our roadblocks, but then we review friction. And the example I give is a roadblock will stop you in your track on your path to what you're wandering through the mountain pathway and you're trying to get to the summit and a tree falls over and you can't move. You can't go under it. You can't go over it. You can't go through it. What do? You escalate that as a roadblock, and that's sort of classic EOS. But what about the blackberry bushes that have been scraping your ankles the whole way and they're kind of bleeding? You can still move forward, but they're freaking annoying, right? And all of us as business owners, we have friction all around our companies, and most people don't talk about it. Because what can you do with it? Now, you can do lots with it. It's a beautiful data source. So every weekly L10 meeting, we do a quick review. Jeanette, do you have any friction this week? Susanna, what's your friction this week? And all of that data goes recorded in the transcriptions into an AI model. And I can have my analyst that combs through friction from everybody across the organization, analyzes that daily, weekly, monthly, and say, what are some of the strategic changes that we could do within our company that would help reduce friction? So I know that wasn't your question there, but it brought up an important point. Normally, you don't want people complaining about the blackberry bushes in your company. It's like, just focus on the big stuff, right? Well, AI allows you to also tie together all that little bits of data and say, hey, if you were just to make this one change, you're going to have the biggest impact to your organization, and they're all going to appreciate that.
One last question.
We have one from Gabe.
Yeah, I kind of just put this out there on the chat as well. So I'm curious about organizing our G drive and having maybe building an agent in Claude to do that. But it sounds like there's probably some safety procedures there. Like, do you have any suggestions on saying, hey, I'm going to build an agent in Claude to organize my G drive, but when you're doing that, before you do it, back it all up here, ask permission, like any kind of thought process there, so I don't get myself in a spot where I just lost all of my IP for the organization for the last 15 years.
Yeah, it's a huge topic, and I've been spending so much time on safety and security. I think I have it somewhere in this sheet too, but I mean, it's not easy. it's very complex and it's constantly changing. I'll just give you a couple of other examples I didn't even mention before. So I have separate email for sure, separate piece of hardware. I can shut it down. But then I have, yeah, I guess I mentioned this. So I have agents that are watching over the network, looking for problems and proactively shutting them down. I also know I'm not using my agents all the time. So I have this thing called sleep mode where I can tell Amy, go to sleep, and she will shut down and she won't respond to anyone but me. And I need a very specific PIN code and it brings her back online. So yeah, I've got probably 15 different layers of security that are running. And once you get into these agents, you'll see that there's skills out there on the web that you can download. And this is probably one of the biggest risks. Is like, oh, I can download a skill and now Claude can be an expert Google Ads optimizer and I can fire Mike. I don't need his help anymore with Google Ads. Well, there's a lot of fake skills out there that look good. They get lots of positive ratings and then someone swaps out a file and now it's taking over your computer. So just be really careful. There's been a ton of people that have had their environments compromised by downloading some exciting skills file and someone swapped it with another or stole a name, made it look like the official file, but it was a fake site that somebody just vibe coded, and then now your computer is being compromised. But for me, worst case scenario, I've got this device, the device beside me that is running my agents. I can't think of what's the worst thing that happens is I lose my work. I have it all automatically backed up in a GitHub repository. There's security, so I can bring things back online quickly. And I would just be sad. Amy would be gone, and I would have to reboot from a hard drive and learn from that experience. But she couldn't. She has no access to my banking, my personal email. She might be able to delete some Asana tasks in one specific project that she was given access to. So at this stage, I just treat everything as disposable, that I'm prepared to throw that away at a moment's notice.
You have a special relationship with Amy, I guess.
I do. Jeanette, it does not like Amy.
Okay. Okay. So we have this running joke in our household, like me and my son, and we're always kind of making fun of Mike, like, oh, he must be with Amy. Like, you know, when you hear about people like jobs being taken over, I feel like my position as wife has been taken over. And so it's a running joke in our household in the car. And oh, I think Mike's with Amy. He's not answering his phone. Oh, he's with his mistress Amy.
It is a unique relationship. It's so personified. I mean, it's just numbers and math, right? But when like the emergent properties of these agents are getting so good, I can't remember a specific example, but there's so many times where like the agents will surprise me with some level of insight or thought, or like, oh, I just went ahead and did this, and I'm like, wow, like you came up with this. Mike, I have an idea to build this self-healing agent that will review all of our code and do this stuff. And you want me to go ahead? And I'm like, yeah, that's brilliant. Bob, do you agree? Bob comes in and goes, yeah, brilliant idea. I'm like, you guys came up with that on your own. Please execute. I'm going back to bed. You know, like it's a really interesting relationship where I find myself like going, holy shit, multiple times a day, seeing what these agents can do.
It does make me think about the book Origin by Dan Brown, where there's an AI called Watson helping Robert Langdon solve a mystery. Read the book. That's a book was written in 2017, and I think it's now technologically available. Anyway, so we wrap it up.
Amy, can you buy that book for me, please? Thank you. All right. Amy's on it, Robert.
Amy is good. So we wrap it up and continue this discussion on the 12th of March.
Yeah, so March 12th, we're going to continue this, but it's all going to be just agents. And I'm going to show you the one-person framework I have for running an organization with the humans in the loop on demand. I'm pretty excited about that. By then, too, I will have built out my agent framework to be more sophisticated and more secure. I'll be going through like what are the parts of it that you can safely take on and do. The only thing I'll say now that's safe is Claude Cowork-ish. There's risks. Don't touch Claude bots and OpenClaw unless you're highly technical and you're putting security first in everything that you do. So we'll talk about that more. That's on March 12th. We also, big props to my wonderful wife, Jeanette, who is 1,000 times better than Amy, who put together homework assignment for you all. So really cement the learnings from today 80% of learning comes from doing, 20% comes from listening. So make sure you do the homework to cement the learning. So we'll have specific exercises and go through the slides. We'll send out the recording. And yeah, like Robert was saying, just make sure you're playing around and testing. The most valuable thing that I think you could do is like go get a Claude Cowork account and just say, what could you possibly do for me? And play around with that thing for 15 to 30 minutes a day minimum. A week from now, you'll be a completely different person. We're automating so many things every day with these tools. It is mind blowing right now. Everything's changed in the last 2 weeks. So,
Mike, thanks. Janet, thanks for helping out. Edward, for helping out. I have one last thing. So for everyone from EO, we are organizing our 4th Global AI Summit on February 26th. We have a wide range of topics that we're going to discuss. If you're an EO member, you can sign up for free. And it's a long session from 4 o'clock Central European time until 10. And you can register on our website, globalAIsummit.com. And really looking forward to seeing you all there. Thank you.
Yeah, I went to it last year and it was awesome. It was really well produced, Robert.
Thank you. Take it as a compliment.
Awesome.
See you next time, guys.
Good to see you all. We'll see you next month. Take care.